Good evening. Welcome to the Woodchuck Report. I'm your host, V. Chase. On this Friday, November 8th, I don't know why I keep doing that since it tells me right there on the screen, but today's Friday, November 8th. Excuse me for the lack of preparation today. For those who are not from Vermont, we had our first snowfall storm, and for a state that should be used to snow, we were not used to snow. I myself was almost a recipient of, let's just say, gravity and lack of friction today this morning. So I got my stuff on my handy dandy cell phone, but unfortunately my other technological devices failed me. Well, I failed myself. But today's topic is going to be Vermont, some of the taxes, the economy, things, and the whole idea is spurred from a couple conversations I've had with some coworkers and some friends, and younger friends, millennials, if you will. And we're talking about some of the things that we ourselves have seen and are experiencing, especially with the local economy. How most of our brethren are, say, graduating. I'm a UVM graduate, well, undergraduate, and how a lot of us, once we graduated, we left the state. You know, whether that would be leaving to, say, the DC area, New York City, or going out west to Colorado, which seems like everyone and their mother does, or just generally leaving the state in of itself. And so the conversations that we're having is, why is that the case? And not just for us young people as well. It's also shown in the older demographics, the 55 plus demographic, who are leaving mostly due to high taxes. Let's be honest, Vermont's a high tax state, and not just, not anecdotal, it's seen in the actual tax laws when you compare it to the other 49 states and however many territories, which is a question that I really do need to find out how many territories the country has. But if you excuse, I'm going to have to read off my phone since it's the one device that has not failed me. So the first thing I'm going to have that I sent to myself is states with the highest and lowest taxes. And more or less just going to read off this so we can get an idea of what I'm referring to, right? So as quick definition, taxes are used to fund government services, infrastructure, and public work projects, and are an unavoidable cost of citizenship. What's the common saying? Two things you can't avoid is death and taxes. So there you go. While all Americans are subject to the same federal tax rates, the taxes they pay to their state and local governments varies depending on where they live, and these different tax rates can mean wildly different tax burdens. In some part of the countries, Americans pay as little as 6.5% of the state's income per capita in taxes, while in other, the average state and local tax burden is nearly double, as high as 12.7%. Now, tax structure policy is one of the most powerful tools state and local governments have at their disposal. Certain tax structures incentivize certain behaviors and disincentivize others, often to achieve some defined outcome. So, states with the highest taxes. Number 11 on this list out of, 11, is Vermont. Duh, hence why I sent this to us. So tax, for reference, this is as of, it does not tell me, facts and figures of 2018, so that'll be last year. Obviously, this year isn't over yet, so it's not updated yet. So hopefully by next year I'll have that updated for you so we can see in comparison. But number 11 on this list, Vermont. Taxes paid as a percentage of income, 10.3%. Income per capita, 49,984, which is the 20th highest. I'm assuming that's out of all 50 states, not including the territories. Property tax collection per capita is 2,542, which is the 5th highest. General sales tax collection per capita, $596. Obviously, these are all dollars. 11th lowest. Vermonters pay an average of 10.3% of their income in state and local taxes every year, one of the highest shares of any state. Vermonters pay more taxes on average than residents of any other state. The state collects an average of $4,950 per taxpayer annually. the most of any state, and about $2,000 more than is typical across all states. So property taxes account for a larger than typical share of the state revenue in Vermont. Anyone who owns property, not this guy, would know that. So an estimated 43.8% of state and local revenue comes from property taxes, well above the 31.1% average share across all states. So there you go. Number 10 on the list, Oregon, taxes paid as percentage of income, 10.3%. Income per capita, $45,399. 23rd lowest. State income tax collections per capita, $1,882, the sixth highest. Property tax collections per capita, $1,404, 24th highest. And general sales tax collection per capita is none. Obviously meaning that Oregon does not have a general sales tax. Yay, Oregon. I'm going to leave out some of the other finer details, but go to number 9, Rhode Island. Taxes paid as a percentage of income, 10.8%. Income per capita, $50,427, 17th highest. State income tax collection per capita, $1,169, 16th highest. Property tax collections per capita, $2,339, 7th highest. And general sales tax collection per capita, $921, 25th lowest. And so thinking about Rhode Island, is one of the several New England states to rank among those with the highest effective tax burden. Highest tax burden is driven in part by the state's 7% sales tax, the second highest sales tax rate amongst all the states. Number 8 on this list is going to be Minnesota. Taxes paid as percentage is 10.8%. Income per capita is $52,038, 13th highest. State income tax collections per capita, $1,943, 5th highest. Property tax collection per capita, $1,534, the 17th highest. General sales tax collections per capita, $1,011, 18th highest. Number 7 is Maryland. Taxes paid as percentage is 10.9%. Income per capita is $58,052, which is the 5th highest. State income tax collections per capita, $1,414, 10th highest. Property tax collections per capita is $1,555, 16th highest. General sales tax collection per capita, $748, 20th lowest. California, taxes paid as percentage of income, 11%. Income per capita, $56,374, 6th highest. State income tax collection per capita is $2,055, 4th highest. Property tax collections per capita, $1,451, 21st highest. General sales tax collections per capita, $997, the 21st highest. Illinois comes in 5th. Just going to start skipping some of these. Wisconsin. Number 3 on this list is going to be New Jersey. Number 2 is Connecticut. And number 1 is New York. State taxes paid percentage is 12.7%. Income per capita is $59,563, 4th highest. State income tax collections per capita, $2,345, the highest. Property tax collections per capita is $2,697, 4th highest. General sales tax collections per capita, $682, and it's the 15th lowest. In case you didn't miss that trend, the majority of those were New England states and generally Northeast, which is a general theme that the Northeast, especially New England, has generally higher taxes and a higher tax burden. You can argue, well, strong arguments are made for the high quality of life, better education system, better health system, and so on, so on. And I'll actually point out to you, for those who are doing the red versus blue state, the majority of those are blue states. States with the lowest, number 11, Oklahoma. Number 10, Mississippi. Number 9, South Carolina. Number 8 is Nevada. Number 7, New Hampshire. The one outlier in this group, as in being outside of the Northeast or New England. So taxes paid as percentage of income, 7.9%. Income per capita, $55,954. 7th highest. State income tax collections per capita, 66, which is the 9th lowest. Property tax collections per capita, $3,054 is the 2nd highest. And general sales tax collections per capita is none. Obviously, we already know that for us in New England. New Hampshire has no sales tax. New England is one of the only handful of states with no sales tax. State and local government in New Hampshire depend much more on property taxes than is typical. Homeowners in the state pay an average of about 2% of their home value in non-federal property taxes annually, a higher share than in all but 2 other states. Partially as a result, some 65.7% of state and local revenue come from property taxes, by far the largest share of any state and more than double the average across all states. Though it taxes capital gains, New Hampshire is also one of only a handful of states with no personal income tax. It does, however, collect heavily on corporate taxes on a per capita basis. New Hampshire collects $525 in corporate taxes in fiscal 2016, more than any other state. I'm assuming that's per capita. Otherwise, that does not make sense. Louisiana is number 6, Texas is number 5, Tennessee is number 4, Wyoming's number 3, South Dakota is number 2, and number 1, which was a surprise to me, but in retrospect, it actually shouldn't be a surprise, is Alaska. Taxes paid as a percentage of income, 6.5%. Income per capita, $55,646, the 8th highest. State income tax collections per capita is none. Property tax collections per capita is 2001, it was just the 11th highest. General sales tax collections per capita is none. Largely because Alaska levies no sales or income tax, the state has the lowest tax burden as a share of income per capita of any state. Makes sense. Because the state has fewer revenue streams, a larger than typical share of Alaska's budget funding comes from property taxes and corporate income tax. Some 57.2% of state and local revenue come from property taxes in fiscal 2015, and 8.8% came from corporate income tax, respectively the second and third largest shares among states. A low tax burden on residents does not mean the state has limited revenue. Alaska is one of the largest proved oil reserves of any state and levies a 35% tax on all oil and gas produced in the state. This contributed to Alaska's high total revenue per capita, $10,418 in fiscal 2016, the second highest population-adjusted revenue figure of any state. So, some information about where all those data comes from. So to identify states, the highest, lowest tax burden, 24/7. This is by 24/7 Wall Street reviewed state and local tax burden as a share of state residents' income in fiscal 2012, provided by the Tax Foundation. Personal income per capita for each state for 2016 and came from the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis. State individual income tax collections per capita for fiscal 2016. State and local property tax collections per capita for fiscal 2015, and more disclaimers on where the data come from. So, what does that tell us? It tells me I'm kicking cables. But more importantly, it tells us that general trend of states with little to no income tax usually have a larger percentage budget comes from property tax, which is shocking because every state needs a budget. So if you're not levying, say, taxes on income or personal income or say corporate tax, you then have to levy on, say, property tax, which if you're a property owner, you generally tend not to like that. But if you're just a resident, like myself, you tend to like no income tax, which is a bit of contention for the state. We're one of the few states that does not actually have a legally mandated balanced budget, but we actually do have a balanced budget. So thank you, state legislatures, for both the good and the bad. All right. And now to breakdown of the economy. Excuse me while I just pull on random cables and not try to disconnect myself. So much of this data is coming from 2015, and this is ranked by Forbes magazine. And so, Vermont for 2015, I apologize for not having something sooner, but hey, it's Forbes. They do whatever they want to do on their own time. So we rank as the 42nd best state. Remember, this is for 2015. So, and I actually believe we've gone down since then. 42nd best state in which to do business. I believe now currently we're sitting at 49th, if not 50th. It was 32nd in 2007 and 30th in 2006. So the trend, we are trending down and not up, which generally is, well, in this case is a terrible thing. In 2008, an economist said that the state had a really stagnant economy, which is what we were forecasting for Vermont for the next 30 years. Not a good thing. So May 2010, Vermont's 6.2% unemployment was the fourth lowest in the nation. I believe it's currently at 3.6%, which it's just a side thing. While it is low unemployment rate is a good thing in general, sometimes it can be too good. And by that I mean if your unemployment rate is too low, it causes, it can cause wage stagnation. And because one of the best things, well, not a good word to use. One of the things that needs to happen is workers need to have choices, or businesses need to be able to attract new workers, and that's how they grow. Obviously, it's very hard to grow a business if you can't attract more workers. So if all the workers are already tied up, businesses have nothing else to do, they can't grow. Usually they find ways around that, which gets into some immigration policy. One of the biggest things of immigration. I'm going to sidetrack and go to a national topic of the whole immigration thing and some of the problems and good and bad of immigration, especially for, say, the agricultural industry, which relies heavily on immigration because, let's face it, people don't like to work in the agricultural industry, whether that's dairy farming, cow farming, which is redundant, corn, whatever. Farming in general is just has less of appeal to anybody really. So that tends to not have a lot of workers. Well, regardless, our agricultural industry still needs workers. So where do they turn to? Immigration, especially say here in Vermont for say apple picking, the dairy industry, and so on requires a large. Well, Vermont's an exception, but most of the country, a relatively large percentage of the workers to be coming from immigration. So food for thought. So this is going to be Vermont's gross state product was, as of 2010, 26 billion. This is not counting for size. Not counting for size, this places the state 50th among 50 states. It stood 34th in per capita GSP, and that's going to be more annoying. Components of GSP, government approximately 3 billion, 3.4%. Real estate, rental, and leasing, 2.6 billion, which is accounted for 11.6%. Durable goods and manufacturing, 2.2 billion, 9.6%. Healthcare and social assistance, 2.1 billion, 9.4%. Retail trade, 1.9 billion, 8.4%. Finance and insurance, 1.3 billion, 5.9%. Constructions, 1.2 billion, 5.5%. Professional and technical services, 1.2 billion, 5.5%. Oh, hey, we got somebody. That's the phone call. Keep going. Wholesale trade, 1.1 billion, 5.1%. Accommodations and food services, 1 billion, 4.5%. Information was 950 million, 4.2%. Non-durable goods manufacturing, 711 million. And looks like I got somebody, yes. Oh, I got a call on line 1 because I can hear it through the glass. Hey, welcome to the Woodchuck Report. How are you?
Good. How are you, V?
Good. What do you got for me?
So I figured I'd call in and offer my 2 cents. I know we've had a couple conversations about these topics in the past. One of the things that I think really has pushed Vermont to be so unaffordable, particularly for young folks, is just the cost in housing in and around Chittenden County. With the major universities in the state being pretty close, that's led a lot of landlords, developers, and property owners to look to cater to those students and really take advantage of their ability to pay for high-cost housing. And that's really done a damage to the folks that are living in Vermont, recent graduates who are just starting their career. It's pretty difficult to pay for a to $1,000 bedroom in an apartment, or pay for a $1,300 one bedroom when you're only making $40,000 a year at your first job here in the state.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. Yep. Yeah, and like you were saying, we did talk about that. It is, just walking Shelburne Road in of itself, how many construction projects. Chin County itself has a lot of construction projects. And yeah, you're right. They are catering to the one bedroom, the studio apartments, the two bedrooms, but they're all, $1,300, $1,500 apartments.
You don't see a lot of units going up, under anything new. You're not going to see under $1,800, really. And it's tough because, I work for one of the bigger companies in the state, and we have jobs that remain open, for months and months at a time. 4 or 6 months, and it's a struggle to get people in to interview because, the population for those new, career path or a few years experience, that population is just so small because the cost of living has pushed people out. And I think part of that is directly related to, the property tax rates in the state, and in particular in Chittenden County. And part of it's in part due to the state income tax and other taxes that we pay here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And growing up here, it's unfortunate to see, a lot of people that I knew growing up, they get their degree at a state university, and then, maybe 1 or 2 years here before they figure out that, they could be making more money in other states and living just a better quality of life. And our state population was stagnant for a few years, in the 2014 era, and we've started to have some growth, but we're really not seeing growth in those population ranges that we would like to see. We're not seeing new families, people in their late 20s, early 30s moving to Vermont to start a career and start a family. We're seeing a lot of people in their 50s, 60s, retirement age folks, moving back to the state or moving here to retire or, vacation. And that's not what we need right now.
Yes, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, the lifeblood of every economy is, it's young blood. And yeah, I think the state has done a terrible job of maintaining that young blood. So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I just wanted to call in and offer my thoughts and contribute to the discussion.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
All right, B, have a good weekend.
You too. You have a great time.
Bye.
Well, as you were saying, a buddy of mine, he does work for one of the larger companies here. And as our conversation was stating, that it is one of the bigger problems with Vermont itself is, as people under the age of 30, it's very hard to, when you're applying for a job, because a lot of jobs, like, oh, we want, multiple years of experience. Well, how are we supposed to get multiple years experience if we can't even get an entry-level job? But the entry-level jobs require us to have multiple years experience. So it's a real catch-22 that we're running in. And I think the state as a whole has done especially on the housing side, states, they've tried to add more and more housing and free up more and more regional areas for housing. But as a developer, you're not stupid. You're going to look at your project like, oh, thank you. What am I going to build? Am I going to build houses for people who may or may not be able to pay, or for people who I know can pay? And the short answer is, the short and long answer is, you can build houses for people who can pay. And I do work for a company that does flooring. I do delivery driver flooring, and so I've been to multiple construction units all over the state, to be frank. And yeah, a lot of them are, $1,500 apartments where they're 1 or 2 bedrooms, $1,800, $2,000. I've been into a couple that are $2,400 apartments, and it's just like, good God, who can afford this? And truth be told, it's the older crowd. that's who it is. So seeing that it's got my 5-minute warning, and I probably am down to 4 minutes, I'll probably end it right there and say, well, thank you for listening to Woodchuck Report on this, actually, it's not too bad of a day. The snow is mostly melting, if not cleared up. So for all those listening, thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. You have a great day. And as usual, don't do anything I wouldn't do.